So right now I'm sitting down with Ivy Petzinger. She is running for president of USG. She's running unopposed, but we are still going to answer some questions about her potential presidency. So first, 1 minute for opening statement.
So my name is Ivy Petzinger. I'm a third-year chemical engineer from Pensacola, Florida, and I hope to serve as this year's coming undergraduate student government president. I joined undergraduate student government my first year in the fall. I served as a first-year representative on the Student Life Committee, and then the next year I served as an engineering representative on the Student Life Committee. This past year, my current role is the vice president of Student Life on the executive committee. So I feel like I've gained a bunch of wonderful experience that hopefully I can continue on in this role of presidency. And just to share a little bit about what I see as the overarching principles that I believe should guide USG this coming year, those include inclusivity, transparency, and collaboration. So that will probably be touched upon on many of the questions coming.
Thank you, Ivy. The first question, what are the most important internal issues USG is facing?
So internally, I guess to speak to one of those overarching issues, I think sorry, 1 minute. I'm going to think for a minute. I think one thing that we can definitely work on internally is... Sorry, I have 1 minute to think about this. Okay, so sorry. Internally, I think one thing that we definitely can work on is... I guess, I don't know if you want me to speak to as president or as my experience as vice president, but...
Either one.
Okay, so one thing I'll speak to is for roles of vice president, as that's something I currently hold the position of. It was definitely an interesting balance, I'd say, and something I significantly grew in and has given me a lot of insight, is the balance between what I see as issues and things that need to be worked on in representing the student body, as well as members of a committee and what they see as how they want to best represent the student body. So I think it's an important balance of empowering members on a committee as well as kind of guiding them and making sure you have a focus and making sure the student's voice is represented in overall the focus and what is being done. So I hope to take this in my role of presidency and how I interact with the executive committee, because ultimately I want all of them to feel like they're pursuing their passions as vice president, but also I want to keep an overarching view of the undergraduate student government and our role and make sure that we are remaining focused and representing students first.
Great, thank you. Next question. How do you plan to continue the work you have started as the current VP of Student Life in your new role as USG President?
Okay, so one thing that I focused on a lot this past year is inclusion. And as president, I think, my primary goal is to promote an inclusive campus. And I think this is something that it should be important to every single member in the undergraduate student government, as well as hopefully every member on our campus. And I think this is something I really want to focus on. So there are many examples of this being in General Assembly. Internally, for example, one thing that President Ward has done this past year is auditing our diversity in the undergraduate student government, comparing that to data of the undergraduate student body, and making sure that we are representing, or where we are lacking in that diversity, we're reaching out, we're understanding how we can, starting dialogue and conversation, seeing how we can better represent them, encouraging them to use USG as an outlet, encouraging them to run. So that's one example. There are many initiatives as well. So I hope to work with the executive committee and General Assembly members, as well as just communication with the student body and striving to be as inclusive as possible.
Great. Continuing on inclusion and diversity, USG is considering an initiative to create a new standing committee on diversity and inclusion. How do you see that committee working within USG on current resolutions as well as with other campus organizations?
Definitely. So as I've been a part of the Student Life Committee for the past 3 years, diversity and inclusion has been something listed that falls under the Student Life Committee. So it's something that I've been I've had many discussions with the past 3 years, and it's been wonderful. There have been many initiatives that have been brought up and some that have been worked on to some degree. But it's difficult because that is something so huge and so important that we need to commit time and energy to. And when it's just something else upon a committee with tons of other initiatives as well, I think that getting a standing committee and really fully permanently committing as opposed to just an ad hoc or something that falls under one of many initiatives on a standing committee, I think that being able to devote time, have a vice president, have representatives to serve to that 100%, I think that will be amazing. Additionally, I think we'll be able to form a lot of wonderful relationships with other organizations, students on this campus, offices on this campus.
We've talked a lot about student life, but how do you plan to work with areas of USG that you're less familiar with?
Definitely. So I think something so important is relationships. And so to serving as president, I think, I guess I'll take a minute to say how serving as vice president for student life, it was so important to have strong relationships with my committee members and have one-on-ones and conversations, very honest conversations about how they feel, how things are going, hopefully that we can both learn from each other and strive to better represent students together. So I think as serving as president, I can work very closely with vice presidents who have expertise in many different areas and learn a lot about what they're most passionate about, what they're striving to do, and help support them in any way possible. So I think first becoming as educated as possible on what they want to do, things that have been done in the past, what the students want them to do, and working with them to help them to do something.
All right, great. Next question. If elected, you will also be a member of the Student President's Roundtable. What role do you see yourself playing in the SPR?
So the SPR is a body that I think has a lot of potential, has been able to do a lot, but I think we can definitely work on collaboration there. I've attended one meeting so far, and I noticed a lot of tension. So I hope one thing that I've learned a lot in my past 3 years, and just part of who I am, is that I've noticed students, and even just here at Case Western, students here are so passionate. So when they are part of something, I feel their passion is so strong that sometimes it's easy to get territorial, and they care so much about their organization that it's hard to take a step back and look at overall the goal and how can they best benefit the student body, what their passion and what their purpose is. So I hope that as a member of SPR, we can all take a step back from our organization, and look at everyone's organization and everyone's purpose and see how we can best work together.
Okay, next question. Apart from your diversity and inclusion-based initiatives, what other initiatives do you plan on pushing for over the course of the next year? And this is from Prince Ghosh via Twitter.
So there's a lot of ideas I have, and again, part of it's going to come from conversation with students and what they want, conversation with vice presidents and what they want, but some things that I see being very beneficial initiatives that we can pursue. One being a part of transparency. So I think our current vice president of PR has done amazing work in improving the website. One area I think that we could work on improvement is our minutes, for example. It's something that hasn't been updated in a long time, and I know I personally like to look up other organizations and look at their minutes, especially when I'm trying to learn more about a certain initiative or a certain conversation going on. So I think we can promise to the student body that we will have, and I would work with the vice president of PR, work with the executive committee, but come up with something that we can promise to the student body, whether it be 24 hours or something, but have those minutes up immediately, make sure they're aware of when our general assemblies are, when our executive meetings are, it's open to them. But in terms of being transparent, I just feel like at this university, students can figure out things if they want, but people are so busy. I think bringing them into the process and making sure they're educated on everything, that they can be a part of this conversation, is one thing that we can work on.
All right, great. The next question. How do you plan on holding vice presidents and representatives accountable to their goals?
So back to our vice president of PR. One thing that's been worked on this year that's amazing, that I really hope is implemented and really utilized this coming year, is the initiative tracker, which I think would be so beneficial in holding vice presidents as well as representatives accountable to General Assembly, to the student body. Anybody can see this because it would be online, and it would it would include steps of action, where they are. They'd have to update it regularly, but this would show people, it would hold people accountable if they have to update in a few weeks and nothing's happened, and again and again. It shows the student body, it shows vice presidents, it shows everyone that, if there's things are not being done, things need to be done. A representative holds that position for a reason, and students' voices should be represented. So I believe that would be a very beneficial thing in helping hold everyone more accountable.
Yeah, sounds like a good thing you guys are rolling out. Next question. How will your presidency be different from previous presidencies?
So I think something unique about myself is my ability to step back, and I am very, very critical of myself, and that I think this can be very beneficial, and that I want to work with others. I want to start communications, very honest communications, and say, how can I be better? How can I better represent the student body? How can I better work with vice presidents and the executive committee? How can I better work with the General Assembly? But so I plan for this to be very dynamic. While I have a lot of ideas, I want everyone's input. I want to be the best possible, and I think to do that, I want everyone's voice and everyone's opinion.
All right, yeah. This is the final question. How will you push forward on USG's Sanctuary Campus resolution?
Yes, definitely. So I think this was such a beneficial thing. One thing that was amazing in it, it was brought up in the student life debate, was the conversation that was had. There was a wide variety of perspectives brought up. I feel like it was a time where people spoke up. Something that's been talked about is how sometimes people are intimidated to speak up in GA, but it's something we've worked on a lot this past year. We've had a lot of discussions with in GA and at our retreats. So I think that's a very positive thing we have going. But I know the administrators right now, while they have a lot of positive things in place and have promised a lot of positive things, there's certain pushback still. They don't want to call us a sanctuary campus, when that is what we as a General Assembly, as an undergraduate student government, are asking for. So I think we need to hold them accountable, make sure everything we're asking for, we keep checking in with them, keep demanding that these things happen, because it is so important that every person here feels safe and included. And a sanctuary campus is how that can happen. So just continuing conversations with administrators, really, really representing the student voice and making sure that every single student here can feel safe and included and doesn't have to worry about what's going on with the political climate, but here that they can feel safe.
Thank you. My apologies. We had one more question submitted via Twitter.
Yes.
USG functions as a number of committees. How do you plan to divide up the representatives so that, for instance, the Academic Affairs Committee is not primarily comprised of engineering or other STEM students? Do you see it as a problem if a single committee is dominated by one caucus?
Definitely. I think this is something that I would work closely with the speaker on. I know the speaker works on caucuses and oversees that. I think it's very important. So during our fall retreat, that's when the different vice presidents will give presentations about what their committee's about. First-year students, new members, and everyone at the retreat will learn and preference what committee they want. But then the executive committee will step aside and look at everyone's preferences, and we try to give everyone their top preference. But making sure that it is representative, making sure that there are voices from different colleges, first-year students, and all the different colleges on the committees. And additionally, I know that representatives before, when they're passionate about things, they're not limited just to what their committee is. People are allowed to be involved in different committees. People are allowed to be involved in initiatives that may not fall exactly under the committee. So I think just making sure, and even just conversations in committee meetings and with representatives working on certain initiatives, making sure, even if they're an engineering student or a nursing student, that they're representing all students from all colleges. So whether that be reaching out and starting conversations with students or representatives of different backgrounds, I think that's definitely possible and important to keep in mind.
Great, yeah. We've touched on a lot here. You have 1 minute to make a closing statement.
All right, so I'll take this time to highlight the overarching principles I believe that should guide this USG this coming year, which I mentioned at the beginning, being inclusion, transparency, and collaboration. My primary goal is promoting an inclusive campus. And as I touched on this for a minute, didn't get to elaborate and quite say what I meant, but while we cannot control what happens in the world around us, I will make sure that I'm doing everything in my power to make every single student here on campus feel safe, protected, and included. Secondly, it is only through transparency that we can truly advocate for students and effectively communicate our efforts, successes, and failures. Until we do that, if we are not doing that, if we are not being transparent and communicating all of that, then we cannot truly be accessible and approachable. Thirdly, collaboration is a powerful force for making voices of many speak louder than the sum of its parts. So with a strong vision, a proven track record, and bold new ideas, I hope you will entrust me with the presidency of USG. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to all our candidates. Thank you to Ivy. This concludes our USG debates. Thank you to Tink for holding this and for USG for helping us to coordinate these debates.